Hello, fellow Sublime Text fanatics. ODAT Nerd here with the Devember Day 7 devlog, and oh my, what a day it was. I actually got a bit of time prior to the live stream to do some research, which was good because, man, C Sharp really vexes me sometimes. So, what actually happened after the last devlog until the start of the stream, and what happened in the stream are two separate or two complete pairs of information because I didn't really do a lot of stuff after the vlog last night except for checking in the code with that bug fix that I mentioned. For the reception code of multiple messages. So, focusing in on the C sharp end of the operation to create the socket server, the ultimate goal of for the next few days is to get the network code for the server up and running in a similar-ish way to how it's working in the client. Now, right now, the server is an echo server, simple text that is based off of, very strongly based off of an async socket IO example from the .NET Core, or at least the .NET framework. Help for socket code. And as an echo server, it just captures all the data that you send it until it sees the text EOF in angle brackets, and then it ships it all off to you and closes the connection. Now, obviously, we don't want text, so we want binary. We don't want it to close the connection. So what we actually want to do is at least get it to a state where it can accept our messages and echo those back to us, which means it can't be looking for delimiters in the data. It has to use the bounds of the data that it actually receives to know how it's going to do that. So the first step to that is to create, which is what I researched quite a bit and spent a lot of time before the stream and then an hour and a bit in the stream doing, was creating our protocol message, introduction message, and error message type code that we did in the Python version a couple of days ago or a few days ago into C sharp. And a lot of research went into the appropriate pattern to do that in. I had a lot of false starts. I first tried to do it in a way that looked very similar to how it works in Python, but that wasn't quite what I wanted to have happen. Because in Python there is one class that everything is subclassing, and it's replacing static class methods with another static class method that knows the message type, and then it can encode, it can decode, and there's no implicit constructor in there. That clearly doesn't work as well in C sharp as it could, because you need a constructor to be able to construct the object, right? So clearly, so we need a constructor that takes a data or bytes array to actually do something with. And secondly, I spent a bunch of time trying to fiddle with the pattern, a factory pattern similar to the Python code, where each of the message class instances could register itself with the base thing so that it could dynamically dispatch which message to create. And I did not come up with a particularly nice way to pull that off, and I'm not even sure if that's even necessary. So, in a nutshell, so this vlog doesn't get to be as long as the stream because I've already talked about this in the stream. So, if you want more detail into how all of this fits together, jump in and look at the first 20 minutes or so of tonight's live stream for Devember Day 7, and it goes through all of the research I did and the structure of the code and how it all ties together. But essentially, instead of having each of the classes have a method that knows its message ID and then registering those message IDs and the associated class names so that the from data method in the factory can examine the first couple of bytes and figure out what class by looking it up in a dictionary and then constructing one of those out of the data. Instead, there's an enumeration that lists all of the different message types, and the from data grabs the data, the first couple of bytes out of the bytes array that you provide it, uses that in a switch statement to figure out which message it's supposed to create, and then invokes the constructor that takes a byte argument with the entire bytes, and that class is responsible for doing things. And then each of those classes very simply has an encode and a decode method. Encode is something. Well, actually, it doesn't have a decode. It has the constructor. Sorry about that. It has a string method so that you can actually see what it is. Um, but yeah, essentially, the encode takes the state of the data, puts it into a byte array, and there's a constructor that takes a byte array that initializes the object, and there's a little bit of error checking. And then the main code, we tested two ways. First, we created messages in Python, dumped the byte array to a constant, brought that in, and verified that our code would decode those messages. And then, as an extra test, we encode messages using our class and then immediately decode it again to make sure that it still works. And that seems to be good. It is monumentally ugly, and the design may not be exactly what we want, but since the goal isn't to make the world's prettiest code, and to instead the goal is to make a version of something so that we can get insight into how it should work and learning how C# works in general, we don't want to spend the whole 30 days trying to figure that out um, when we could instead actually get a working prototype and then extend and iterate on that and tighten everything up. So that is what happened tonight. We essentially have the ability to encode and decode binary messages, and that means starting tomorrow, unless there is again something horrific that occurs while I'm walking around doing my morning walk tomorrow. It's Saturday is one of my days when I do a longer morning walk, and I'll be able to give more thought to how I want things to work. We're going to jump into trying to re-architect the example code to look a little nicer. Now, that may mean that we just jump right in with sending and receiving and buffering and all of that stuff like we just finished doing with the Python code. Or it might mean that we spend a day trying to refactor the code out into some sort of client object the way we have a connection object or something along those lines. We're going to have to experiment with that a little bit, think about it while I'm walking and see what the deal is. So that is the vlog for today, November 7th, the 7th of December. It's funny how those two things line up, isn't it? And this is going to be hopefully a shorter vlog than the last few that have been 11 minutes long. So I hope that if you follow along in the live stream that it was helpful and beneficial to see all of the steps that I went through to end up with something similar. And hopefully you are a better C# developer than me, and you have a good time throwing popcorn at your monitor wondering why I'm such a boob. But that is all I have for tonight. So salute, salute. Please remember to have a sublime day and stay sublime while you're doing it.